Welcome to SUAANGAN. I'm your host, Janine Blake. On today's program, we'll bring you interviews with Patrick Gruben and Carol Debbie Arey. Our feature elder from our archives for this week is Mary Evik Ruben, and we'll bring you to the Beaufort Sea Conference that was held here in Inuvik. But first, let's talk to Hilary Greening of Parks Canada about the Ivavik Park Management Plan. The Park Management Plan for Ivavik Park is being reviewed this year. At a meeting in Inuvik on September 21st, residents came out to give their ideas to Ivavik Park staff. Hilary Greening is the District Planner for Parks Canada's Western Arctic Field Unit. Ron Larson is the Chief Park Warden for Ivavik National Park. Alan Fair is the Manager of the Ecosystem Secretariat. And Danny C. Gordon is a representative of WIMAC, the Wildlife Management Advisory Council. They were all on hand to take concerns and recommendations from the residents. Why is the Ivavik Park Plan being reviewed?
Well, I think there are two main reasons. The first is that, Parks Canada, as Parks Canada, we have to review it. It's in the National Parks Act, so every 5 years we have to go through a process where we review all park management plans. But I think secondly and more importantly, it's important to review a plan every so often and to go to the public and talk to your major stakeholders and just make sure that you're still on track with the management of the park, because things change. So it's important to make sure that your goals and objectives are still the same and that you're meeting those goals and objectives. So the review allows us the ability to kind of modify as we're going along. Mm-hmm. In the IFA, it states that the Wildlife Management Advisory Council North Slope has to recommend the plan to the minister, so they would be a major stakeholder, but also the Inuvialuit Game Council, the IRC, Local Hunters and Trappers Committee in Aklavik, and also the Community Corp in Aklavik. Those would be some of them. Yeah.
How far along in the planning process are you?
Well, we're right at the beginning, actually. We've just started the public consultation, and so we've been to 5 communities. We were in Inuvik and Aklavik, Old Crow, Dawson City, and Whitehorse. So we finished that, And we still have to compile all the information and then go with the major stakeholders and try and make sense of it. So I'd say that we're right at the beginning, and as kind of an aside, there's still lots of opportunity for people to comment, and we're really looking for that.
What were some of the recommendations or concerns from the residents that attended the meeting in Inuvik?
Well, there were lots, but let's see. Muskox, that came up. People are concerned about muskox on the North Slope, and I think it's a lot of it is to do with the interaction of muskox and caribou, so that would be one of the concerns. Another concern, and it was interesting because you got both sides of this concern, was about visitor use of the park. On the one hand, you had people who wanted visitors to be able to go to the park more easily, so they talked about day use and that there's a need for day use in the park because currently there is no day use. But then the flip side of that, you had people who said, well, hold on a second, the park is there for protecting the environment, and we really have to be careful how many people we have going to the park. So some people said, well, maybe we need to put quotas on the amount of people. And people is very broad, so it's visitors and researchers and also park staff. So we need to put quotas on the amount of people that can go into the park so that we're sure that we're protecting the environment. So that was kind of interesting, getting both sides. And another issue that came up was community involvement. That was one that people are kind of saying, you have to involve communities in things that you do, you know, Parks Canada, and whether that's in education or interpretation or, you know, naming different parts of the park, like different peaks or trails. You have to involve the community. So we really heard that too coming out of the meeting.
If you would like to give your recommendations or if there are any issues that you would like to see addressed in the planning process, you can contact Hilary Greening at the Parks Canada office here in Inuvik. Her number is area code 867-777-3248. Patrick Gruben is the chair of the Tuck Community Corporation, and he gave John Day this interview on TCC.
Hi, my name is Patrick Gruben, better known as Dan Gruben throughout the region. I'm chairperson of the Tuck Community Corporation. I have 7 directors, including myself. Lucy Guptana, who is our vice chair. Rex Cockney, who's our secretary-treasurer. Board of directors are Jean Gruben, Paul Vudrak, Dennis Raddy, and Fred Wolki. The Tuck Community Corporation has the following staff. Brenda Pegg is our corporate manager. Elsie Nuttall is our employment officer. Ada Cockney, who's the elders and youth coordinator. There's a vacancy for our youth center, the coordinator for the youth center. There's an assistant who's Nancy Gruben. The Tuck Community Corporation is responsible for assisting our community beneficiaries with their concerns, administrating brighter futures, assisting beneficiaries with employment opportunities. Also, at the IRC level, from our community anyway, we make sure that we follow this extract from the final agreement. To preserve the Inuvialuit culture, identity and values within the changing northern society, to enable Inuvialuit to be equal and meaningful participants in northern and national economy and society, to protect and preserve the Arctic wildlife environment and biological productivity.
Next, we have the Beaufort Sea Conference 2000 that was held in Inuvik from September 14th to the 18th. Aurora Research Institute, Fisheries and Oceans Central and Arctic Region, and the Fisheries Joint Management Committee.
The land and the animals, the waters, the whales, the fish were very important to our ancestors and still are very important to us. Even during negotiations for our land claim settlement, our elders told us that the land and the waters had looked after them for centuries and would look after us for many more to come if we looked after our animals and environment. Whaling for us had changed how it's being done over the last century. It's changed 4 times, but it's still a traditional thing to do regardless if you use the same boats or what, but we still do it in the way that it was done before. We used harpoons. Many years ago they didn't have any guns, so it was harpoons and spears.
for the past 14 years, we have been working on the ocean currents and the drift of ice and the ice properties out on the off the Tuktoyaktuk in the Beaufort Sea, and also in the Husky Lakes and Liverpool Bay and these areas. And over time, we've attempted to relate this physical environment to all the animals and fish that live in the sea and how they might be affected by change. And the change can come either from a global climate change or from man coming in with new activities like mining or petroleum development.
So in that aspect, do you do different types of projects pertaining to whether it be the global change or the different technology that maybe hunters and trappers or people like that are using?
Well, we think so. Like I say, we've been working on it for 14 years, and maybe if we work on it for another 14 or another 140, we might start to understand the complexity of the area. I think at the beginning we came with the notion that the way that Western science usually works is we think that the physics moves things around, the currents and the mixing and the wind blowing, and this brings up the chemicals, the nutrients that the little algae of the sea that need for their nutrition, and then understanding the sunlight that comes and makes the algae grow, and then the plankton that feed on these little algae in the sea, and then finally the fish. So that's just called a bottom-up approach. We start at the bottom of the food chain and we work to the smallest, to the next largest, to the fish, to the seals, on to the bears.
People have been hunting polar bears here for a long time, and in 1968 quotas were brought in, arbitrary quotas were brought into effect in the Beaufort Sea because there was concern that maybe because the rate of harvest had been going up very, very quickly and nobody knew anything about how many bears were there and whether there was enough to sustain the harvest. Mm-hmm. Well, now when we go back and we look at we've analyzed the ages of all of those animals, we find that the average age of the bears that were being harvested in the early 70s was less than 5 years old. They were really young. There was a few old ones in the populations, but mostly they were all being killed. They weren't living very long. Now, the effect of quotas and research and co-management has been that population has recovered and is now doing very, very well. Then one of the other really interesting things we found is that in some years, about at 10-year intervals, we know in 64, 74, and 85 were very, very heavy ice years. Mm-hmm. And what happened in those years, for about 3 years afterwards, the productivity of ring seal pups is very low, and that's the most important part of the population for polar bear mothers and their cubs to feed on. So when productivity of pups drops by 50 or 80%, then the productivity of polar bear cubs and the survival of cubs and subadults drops way down, and we could see that very clearly in the effects from the harvest study. So those are two of the most important things.
A lot of the stuff that we have been talking about was natural resources or renewable resources, marine biology and stuff like that. And
co-management.
Yeah.
Learned all the we've seen all the people that started up this co-management, and we see the people that originally started it, and we get to more feel like how to respect our natural resources and see these guys working for us, and we'll learn off them, and that's what they're passing on to us, and so that's what our role is, probably, is to one step at a time try to learn
more about renewable resources. And I guess the reason they involved students is so that, well, we're the future, I guess. That's what everybody's saying. So I guess we have to learn stuff like this so that we can, like, if they retire, we can take over and have a better sight or view of what we have to do to protect our resources and
environment.
You've been having a kind of a youth workshop on your own. What have you been discussing in the workshop?
What kind of opportunities, job experiences, stuff like that we can try to approach the co-management groups to teach us, and we've been sitting in our group talking about such things as that, and what kind of favorite foods we like on the land food like belugas, seal,
What was basically our,
favorite foods.
I guess, country food.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Well, I guess caribou was my favorite, and I'd like to protect that so that the future children, well, we are children still, but our future children will still have the, like, I guess, the knowledge and stuff of what we learned today, so we can pass it on to them to tell them that how important it is for them to
Protect and preserve for the future of our next generation.
There's three main programs. The broadest program is called Integrated Management, and this is a process by which we hope that our department will be able to bring together a wide diversity of people who have an interest in the sea and bring them to the same planning table so that they can plan together and work on common solutions together. And when I say a diversity of people, I'm thinking of the Inuvialuit organizations, and I'm thinking of the different industries that have an interest in the sea, the tourist industry and oil and gas industry, and the people who are involved in subsistence harvesting and so on. And I'm also thinking of the federal agencies. We have 23 federal agencies that have an interest in the ocean in some way or another. 23, and it's a lot. And probably 6 or 8 have a major interest, like Fisheries and Oceans and Environment Department and so on. But to try to bring these people together to work on common solutions. So that's one program called Integrated Management.
What did you think of the conference? What kind of information are you going to give them?
Well, I'm going to tell them it is awesome. It is a good experience. Like,
Really good.
yeah, I learned quite a bit here, and I enjoyed it every moment of it, even though we had to sit down for like half an hour and listen. But they had pretty important messages to send out to us, and it was informational.
What one of the information, like what was one of the messages that you found most interesting that kind of sticks in your mind?
We got to take care of our resources, because if we don't, they're not going to be there for long.
Our feature elder from ICS Archives for this week is Mary Evik Ruben, a respected elder of Paulatuk. Mary will tell us the story of the first time she saw an airplane.
Me and Sam's wife, we live here. We got little tent with the kids. Them 2 planes landed in the water. I thought they're gonna have a big war. We hide. Skittis there. We hide. We don't know where to hide. We hide behind the old ice house. You know that old ice house you used to know. We hide there. I thought they won't see us, and after that, they got, how they call them, rubber boat? Them planes, they land in the water, but they never land in. Then they start coming and looking for us. He find us. He tell us to come. Then we said, Mayor was in school, I understand them, but my sister Dautuk didn't understand. So he tell us, don't be scared, come over. We start coming, running, kids. He have 3 kids that time. Elizabeth, Ema, and Tony Green. She had only 3 kids that time. We hide behind the ice house. I wonder if they see us when we were running. We thought we were going to save her. We hide her. So that one guy came in with rubber boat and started walking to us. He started telling us, come over. Say, don't be scared. I know you guys are scared. So we start coming. I told her, because my sister doesn't know how to speak, and I told him, I told her, I told him, he told us not to be scared and come over. We start walking. We never come this way. We walk behind the father's house. And then Dautuk told me, see if they have gun. I started to look behind the father's house. I was scared. And then all of them, they went down with a rubber boat. They have little rubber boat. Then he started giving candies to them kids. We don't even know what kind of candies. Some of them, because different kind of things to eat. He brought a box outside the father's right here. The kids, they served themselves. Only 3 kids we have. Me and her, we started eating. We didn't even know. First time too. Then he told us, peel it. We don't know how to eat it. Banana. Stupid. would he take that? He told us to say, peel it like this. Honestly.
Carol Debbie Arey is the Vice President of the Board for the Aklavik Hunters and Trappers Committee. We spoke to her at the HTC office on our last visit to Aklavik.
ISR, and especially in the Aklavik area and the Yukon coast. So a lot of the wildlife issues and anything to do with wildlife we deal with.
What are some of the programs or projects that you've been working on this past summer?
This past summer there was, they started a fish harvest monitoring program, collecting fish harvests from members, actually quite a few members. They take their own samples and counting, and that was from June to, I think it'll be until October. And they harvest the number of harvests by species, so everything is collected. Also this summer there was a Shingle Point camp cleanup, and not just around Shingle Point, it includes Running River and anywhere close to that area. A lot of the old materials, such as 45s, unburnable materials, they were collected, and the camp owners would pile them up, and they were brought into a dump site. So it's a big difference down there. The annual Beluga monitoring, we had 2 monitors again this year, and it's basically the same thing as every year. West Whitefish is a bit shorter than Shingle Point because of the amount of people that move down to Shingle Point around end of July, August. We had a science camp this year with 17 students, and it was a mix of students, so it wasn't just Innovate students, as we feel our community doesn't need to have that conflict. So majority was Innovate, and they were from grades 5 to 12. A lot of good comments on that from the students and from the parents and people in the community, because whatever the students harvested or worked with while they were out on the land, they would take home with them. There was a graduate student that came up from the Canadian Wildlife Service, and they taught plant and animal biology also to the students, and the HTC was also involved with that, with teaching the students what we do, what our roles and responsibilities are, and then how the HTC assists the Innovate. We had elders out there teaching traditional knowledge, hunting knowledge, so it was a good turnout. For the upcoming activities, we're going to be starting up hopefully as soon as possible, but right now it's pretty hectic with a lot of things that's going on this fall. One of the things that is going to be new is the Innovate Harvest Study. It's going to be changed compared to what it was in the past. So there's committees that are getting together and trying to reorganize the harvest study, I guess you call it. Get it back, get the harvest study back, but maybe in a different way. We're going to have a director's workshop probably early this winter, which is good. I mean, it's good for others who have been on the board for quite some time, but just have a workshop for directors just to update everybody. Another thing that we're pushing for is to involve IFA studies in the school curriculum, because we have noticed lately that a lot of our students are not familiar with the IFA, and we feel that since a lot of them now are starting to get involved going out on the land, we feel that the wildlife issues within the IFA is important. So if we can get that into the schools, then when they come out, then if they want a career in anything to do with wildlife, then they'd have that in the background.
I'm your host, Janine Blake, and I'll see you next week. Ilanilu.
On the development claim, he's an elder. he's still doing the game. He's doing pretty good. Oh yeah.